WMPG, Gorham, Portland.
Hi, Golden Age film fanatics, and welcome to DVD Classics Corner on the Air. My name is Dick Dinman, and our goal is to become your exclusive guide to the very best of the Golden Age classics coming out on DVD. We'll have reviews, breaking news of upcoming releases, plenty of surprise guests, and a special feature devoted to the great Golden Age film composers, which we call Cinemusic. So let's turn on the marquee and lights, camera, action.
It's time for Dick's Picks, in which I get to shine the spotlight on one of my Dick's Picks of the week. For the first time ever, 8 of the most iconic cinematic masterpieces of the horror genre are available together on Blu-ray as Universal Classic Monsters: The Essential Collection brings together the very best of Universal's legendary monsters. Imaginative and technically groundbreaking tales of terror that launched a uniquely American movie genre. This definitive collection features 8 films. The original Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, Bride of Frankenstein, The Wolf Man, The Phantom of the Opera Technicolor remake, and the original 3D incarnation of Creature from the Black Lagoon, plus a collectible 48-page book, original posters, correspondence, documentaries, filmmaker commentaries, interviews, storyboards, photo galleries, trailers, and much more. Universal Classic Monsters: The Essential Collection will make your skin crawl, but in a good way. Courtesy of horror icons Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi, Lon Chaney Jr., and Claude Rains, and is available now from Universal Studios Home Entertainment, even as we speak. Stay tuned for more Dick's Picks, coming up on DVD Classics Corner on the Air very soon. And what a joy it is to welcome to my show Julie Adams, the beautiful and talented lady who is, among her countless other prestigious film credits, the object of the Creature from the Black Lagoon's somewhat, scaly affections. Julie Adams, welcome to DVD Classics Corner on the Air. It's wonderful to have you here.
Well, thank you. I'm delighted to be with you.
And I don't know whether you're aware of it, but Universal has just released the Universal Classic Monsters Essential Collection, and included is the very first 3D classic ever released on Blu-ray. And I'm talking about a film that you may have a passing knowledge about, The Creature from the Black Lagoon.
Yes, I do seem to recall that one. Yes.
Now, years ago, many years ago, I was lucky enough to meet Fay Wray, who, as you know, starred in King Kong. And prior to that and after that, many, many very prestigious films. And I asked her, are you bothered by the fact that you're primarily known, your most famous film is in fact King Kong? And she said that it bothered her for a few decades until she realized that the fans had such affection for King Kong that she went with it and actually began to enjoy it. These days, what is your feeling about being so closely connected with Creature from the Black Lagoon, despite having done so many other prestigious films?
Well, I think my feeling is that we are in the entertainment business. And if this film has entertained and pleased so many people for so long, that's okay with me. It's just fine.
Yeah.
I don't... I'm pleased that it has delighted so many people for so long.
Unfortunately, you haven't had many very prestigious co-stars in films, just people like Robert Ryan, James Stewart, Tyrone Power, Glenn Ford, Charlton Heston, Richard Conte, William Powell, Van Heflin, Donald O'Connor, Tony Curtis, Jeff Chandler, Joel McCrae, and 5 times with Rock Hudson. And you also made a film with some singer, Elvis somebody. It's slipping my.
Oh, dear Elvis.
Yes. Now, was the Gill Man your most romantic co-star, or how did you feel about working on this film? What was your initial reaction?
Well, when they first handed me the script or told me my next assignment, I thought, creature from the what? What is this? And then I thought, well, gosh, if I turn this down, they'll put me on suspension. I won't get paid. And then I thought, what the hey? It might be fun. And it was. So there we are. I'm very glad I didn't turn it down.
Did you go to Florida with the second unit?
No. That was the second unit. They shot all of that there without me. I really I thought I would like to have gone to Florida, but everything that I did was all at the studio, and the underwater scenes were in a tank on the back lot.
Is it true that the gentleman who I think it was Ben Chapman who played the Gill Man, and that from what I'm hearing, the costume was impossible to sit on for 14 hours each day that they were filming it, and that he couldn't see very well, which caused him to scrape your head against the wall when carrying you in the grotto. Is that true?
Oh, yes, it's true. Poor Ben, he was such a dear man. He was really so sweet. And yes, he was carrying me, and of course, the helmet, he had little slits for his eyes, so he couldn't see very well. So he's carrying me, and I'm supposed to be unconscious, so I'm limp in his arms, and the cave scene had things sticking out of it and so on. So he bumped my head on one of them, and I jumped, And he was so apologetic, And they made sort of a drama of it. They called the nurse down from the at Universal and so on, and they looked at this little scrape on my head. So they made a publicity thing out of it, So,
well, maybe he was trying to help you play unconsciousness realistically.
No, I don't think so. I think he was a very gentle fellow and a good friend, and as I said, the shot of him bending over me solicitously while they're patching up this little scrape on my forehead is very sweet.
Any special memories on this film? And believe me, we're not just going to talk about a Creature from the Black Lagoon, but your fans would. I can't imagine what they'd do to me if I didn't open the show with talking about this film. I ran it last night in 3D. It looks terrific. And what I noticed is that Jack Arnold's direction is way, way above the norm for this genre of the film. Are you aware of how talented this man was?
At the moment, I guess when we were all working, we just sort of took it for granted that he was so good,
Mm-hmm.
But yes, he did a great job with the picture. I think it's one of the reasons it has survived all these years. He was a wonderful director and very a lovely man to work with. I mean, he made everything seem easy. He was really a wonderful director. I enjoyed working on the picture, enjoyed working with Richard Carlson, Richard Denning, all the people in the film, and of course, dear Ben,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
and Riku Browning too. So it was a lovely experience, really. I had a good time working on the film.
Were there any special challenges working with? I believe this was the second film that Universal attempted in 3D, the first being another Richard Carlson film, It Came from Outer Space. So this would have been the second. Were there any special challenges that you were aware of, or restrictions, limitations, in working with this then new 3D process?
It's interesting. I'm trying to remember. I think they were so skilled. They made it easy for us actors, really, as easy as possible. I don't recall anything particular that we had to do or alter. If there were any adjustments, we did them easily. I don't really remember anything that was that difficult.
We pause now for station identification.
DVD Classics Corner on the Air is proud to be a presentation of Southern Maine's own WMPG FM, 90.9 and 104.1 on your dial. You ended up doing a second three-dimension film for Universal called Wings of the Hawk with one of my favorite actors, Van Heflin.
Van Heflin, oh yes. Oh yes, I loved working on that picture. I got to go riding on the back lot every day for 3 weeks with a wonderful wrangler who taught me to ride a Western saddle and so on. So,
well, you
I
actually
had a beautiful horse named Pie that Jimmy Stewart always rode in movies. And
that was his favorite horse.
Oh yes.
In fact, he said Jimmy Stewart said that he tried. I think the first time he rode the horse was in Universal's Winchester '73, and he said he tried to buy the horse from the owner, and the owner would never sell it.
And, that's very interesting.
Yeah,
I didn't know that.
And he insisted on the horse for virtually all of his Western films. Supposedly a remarkable horse.
Oh, he was a wonderful movie horse because he always made the actors look good. Because he would go from a walk into a canter, so that you were never on a trot where you were bouncing up and down. So he was just from a walk into that smooth canter, and then when you were coming into the hitching post to stop, he would come in and just gradually slow down, and then be right up at the hitching post, and you could get off and throw the reins over and look as though you'd been riding all your life. It was the horse that made me look good.
How did this Universal contract come about?
I assisted in a screen test because I'd done some readings. Excuse me. I'd done some readings at Universal, and Sophie Rosenstein, the head of casting, was a lovely woman, and so she called me out to assist in a screen test with a football player, Leon Hart. They were testing him, so I played opposite him, and then instead of just shooting him, she turned the camera around and shot my part of the scene as well. And from that, Universal became interested in me and cast me in Bright Victory. Really, that was my first film, and they had an option on a contract, and they took up the contract. So that's the story of how I got into Universal.
And Bright Victory was it garnered an Academy Award nomination, justifiably so, for the lead,
For
Arthur Kennedy.
It was wonderful.
Yeah, I saw it recently, and it's really a superb film. It doesn't look like a typical Universal film in many ways.
Not at all. It was beautifully directed by Mark Robeson.
Beautifully.
And a lovely script. It was really a very outstanding. I was proud to be part of that picture. Mm-hmm.
Yes, and a lot of it, I think, was shot on location.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Do you have a favorite among all of the theatrical films that you... I mean, I'm looking here, every genre. For mystery, you've got The Hollywood Story. For comedy, you've got what I think is a very underrated film, Private War of Major Benson, and it's one of Charlton Heston's very, very rare comedy roles. You've got adventure films. You've got... you worked opposite Francis the Mule.
Oh, yes. Let's don't forget Francis the Mule.
Let us not forget Francis the Mule. I'm assuming he was a cooperative co-star.
Oh, he was adorable. Yes, we always give him a nice pat on his forehead every day. You know, good morning, Francis.
And I'm assuming
yes.
he wouldn't answer in Chill Wills's voice.
No, fortunately not. That would give me a bit of a start.
Right. You worked with William Powell in one of his last films, a film called The Treasure of Lost Canyon.
Yes.
How was it working with William Powell, who really is one of the great legendary actors of stars of, in Hollywood?
It was absolutely wonderful. I was really thrilled to work with him, and I was rather in awe of him. But he put all of us completely at ease. He couldn't have been more charming, more gracious, and of course, the wonderful actor that he was.
Yes.
And so it was a great treat to have that kind of experience as a young actor.
And getting back to this relatively unknown, though it shouldn't be, film, Private War of Major Benson, this was, I think, one of two comedies that Charlton Heston made during his entire career. Was he at all ill at ease suddenly being put in this genre of film? Although I have to add that he played initially an extremely strict military training man, but the film was a comedy. How did that work out?
Well, it worked out just fine because he played the role exactly as he should have been, taking it very seriously, the role. And of course, that's what made it funny. And no, he was a complete professional all the way. And as I recall, we rehearsed before the filming, which was great. I always loved when we got to rehearse before shooting.
That doesn't happen a lot, does it?
No, it doesn't. And it's a wonderful, wonderful thing for actors to have that, to have a rehearsal. And as I recall, we rehearsed on the sets even, so that we were all really ready by the time we began to shoot.
And I have to mention Bend of the River because that was the second film that Jimmy Stewart made with Anthony Mann. And what strikes me is that years later, after co-starring with Jimmy Stewart in Bend of the River, you did 24 episodes of the Jimmy Stewart television show. I have to think that he played a part in that deal. Am I correct?
Yes, I think you're right because they were doing tests for the role of his wife in the series, and I came out. I was called in to do a test, and we did this very nice little scene. And at the end of the test, he looked at me and he just sort of gave a little nod of his head, and I thought, I think I've got this job. And indeed, I had.
And for the entire season.
Oh yes, and that's. I always said it was my idea of heaven was going to work with Jimmy Stewart every day for 6 months. I mean, just wonderful. He was such a wonderful actor and such a lovely man.
Would you mind if I just mentioned again some specific co-stars of yours and give me your brief summation of how it was to work with them? I'm going to begin with Rock Hudson because you worked with him 5 times in 5 films. You actually were there for the very beginning of his career. What were your impressions of Rock Hudson? Well,
Rock and I were both contract players, so it was we were friends. It was. I guess I knew him on the lot. Maybe we'd had pictures taken together or whatever, and we were really friends. And so there was a great ease between us. I was not working with big stars as I got to, in other ways. We were great friends. So we had a good time. We had a good rapport.
The film that I'd most like to see of yours, preferably on Blu-ray, is Mississippi Gambler, in which you co-starred with Tyrone Power and Piper Laurie. And Tyrone Power, huge star, was on loan out from 20th Century Fox, and the movie was a big financial success. How was it working with Tyrone Power?
It was heaven. He was, of course, a consummate film actor, and just as charming in person as he appeared on the screen. He was just a really lovely man. It was a wonderful experience. We got to rehearse before the picture, which was a great luxury in those days.
Mm-hmm.
So that I got to know him a bit and so on, and it was one of my treasured experiences in film. And he was appearing on stage in Los Angeles.
In John Brown's Body?
Yes,
Uh-huh,
and all of us. I guess maybe we were in rehearsal, and he invited all of us to come, so we all went. All of us who were working with him,
Mm-hmm.
and that was a great treat to see him in that. He was a wonderful actor and a wonderful man. It's one of my treasured film experiences.
Do you have a favorite of all of the films, theatrical films you've done? Is there one, and you can't choose Creature from the Black Lagoon, is there one film which is your favorite, which possibly you think is your best work or your favorite co-star? If you had to choose, which film would it be?
Well, that's hard to say because I always loved to work, and most films were very positive experiences. I loved working with James Stewart, particularly in Bend of the River. I think it was a wonderful learning experience for me because I remember so clearly there was a scene that we played. I'm in the back of a covered wagon, and it's like twilight, and he's standing there, and we just had this quiet scene. And I remember so clearly that I was watching him when they were doing his close-up, and I was thinking, how does he do that? He's not, quote, doing anything,
Yeah.
and yet everything is there. It was like a great lesson in screen acting that I got.
You never caught the man acting.
No, that's right. Never.
Yeah.
No. It was he was a master of that, and as you know, many years later, I got to work opposite him in a series that was not successful, but I loved working with him every day. It was just great. It's a comedy. Mm-hmm.
What about Elvis Presley?
He was delightful. Very, very charming fellow, and I was in awe of him because I watched him do a scene in a nightclub where he's going around and singing at the same time. And, of course, he's really mouthing to a playback because they were not recording him at that moment. And he did it all perfectly in one take, going around to the tables and looking at that. And so I thought, how does he do that? That's amazing. And he was a delightful young man. I'm from the South, so I recognized him as a young Southern gentleman, and that's exactly what he was in every way. He sent all the young ladies in the picture. He sent us all flowers on the first day of shooting, which was very gallant of him.
It certainly was.
Yes, and he was always charming and professional, and couldn't have been nicer. I think he had a great deal of ability that was not tapped into because he was so popular,
Mhm.
and he was and attractive that they never delved into the deeper part of him. Mhm.
I have to tell you, I began going over your television credits when I was 12 years old, and I'm not through yet. They, I mean,
They do go on, don't they?
my God, I mean, it's amazing. I can't recall ever having anyone on the show that has done. I think you did virtually every show. The thing that stuck out in my mind here, of everything that I saw, is a Perry Mason called Case of the Deadly Verdict, and if my information is correct, and you can tell me if it is or isn't, you were Perry Mason's only convicted client during the show's 9-year run. Is that true?
Yes, I think that's true. He did get me off. They didn't execute me, so so Perry Mason got me off. Saved me by the end.
But you were still found guilty.
Yes, I was found guilty, but but he didn't let them put me in the electric chair.
I know that you'll be doing a lot of personal appearances coming up soon, and I did want to mention them. I also wanted to mention your book, which I believe is called The Lucky Southern Star, Reflections from the Black Lagoon.
Ta-dam.
Yes. Tell our listeners where they can get the book.
www.julieadams.biz, B-I-Z.
Right.
You can order it there.
And the Academy will be running very shortly, I believe, a 3D print of Creature from the Black Lagoon, and you'll be there in person.
Yes.
For a Q&A after the film is over.
That's right.
And
the creature never dies.
That's right. That's right. You're as busy as ever, and it is such a delight to have you on the show. I'm so grateful that you took the time to grace our microphone with your wonderful presence.
Well, that's very kind of you. It's been a great pleasure to talk with you. Thank you.
Well, that's my show for today. DVD Classics Corner on the Air is conceived, written, produced, and directed by me, Double D. And if you missed any part of this show, or if you'd like to hear some of my other latest shows, just go to the archives section at www.wmpg.org. And if you'd like to hear some of my older vintage shows, please go to www.dvdclassicscorner.net, where in addition to the broadcasts, you'll find hundreds of my print reviews of classic DVD releases. So, until next week on WMPG,
keep well, keep happy, and keep listening.